This is me reacting to Mr. Who's the Boss building his dream gaming setup. Let's go.
We are about to turn this room into the most technologically advanced, next-level cinema and gaming room that you have probably ever seen. I'm literally about to get a call in 8 minutes. And on that call, we actually need to lock in and buy the products that we might well be using for the rest of our lives. And then we will set it up and we'll experience it together for the first time. I cannot tell you how excited I am. So when I first walked into this room, here's how I thought this was going to go. I thought, oh, cool. The room already has such good noise isolation. We're going to be able to get an awesome projector for like £5,000. Speakers will probably be another.
Is he in UK? I don't know if he's in UK or not. That'd be weird. I don't know how to translate pounds to US dollars. Somebody let me know down in the comments.
4,000, and then the blank screen, maybe another 1,000. £10,000 total, and it's going to be awesome. But
try and, people in the comments, let me know what these numbers translate to US dollars, if you please.
wow, have we seen some crazy stuff you can do to take it further. The first of which is, this is going to be a gaming room just as much as it is a cinema room. So we spent the first couple of days just deciding exactly which gaming consoles we wanted to fill it with, adding in extra TVs and finding a way to hide them in the room, and then realizing that we'd already hit our initial budget with that alone. But things only started to get really crazy when we headed to a place called Pulse Cinemas to find out what was possible with the audio and the projector parts of this dream cinema room. And it was super cool because these guys had actually built 3 different tiers of cinema, and each level introduced new layers of technology. But
dude, audio, if you go deep enough, audio is, it can be so immersive, but so freaking expensive if you want to go like audiophile deep. Like, oh my gosh, stuff is so expensive.
Even their tier 1 cinema system, which by the way started at £30,000, had some very cool things going on. Like one problem,
and that's base level 1, I think,
that you need to solve if you're going for a high-end cinema is you've got a massive screen in front of you, right? But then where do the speakers go? Yeah, you can put them on the sides, but we very quickly realized that you're going to get the best sound if at least some of those speakers are directly in front of you and facing you. So learning number 1 is that you can't just stick like a whiteboard on your wall as your screen. The best screens are made of woven fabric that is acoustically transparent, so it doesn't interfere with the sound at all, so that you can put some of your speakers behind it. But there is a lot more that we've realized you can do and that we're going to try to do.
So that's going to diffuse the sound, so it's going to reflect the sound back into the room. If you just put absorption into a room, it would sound like, I don't know if you've ever been to an anechoic chamber, but it would just sound horrible.
Oh dear. So yes, turns out you actually don't just want absorption, like we have here. If you're trying to build a perfect cinema, then you have to actually balance out audio absorption, reflection, and diffusion to make sure that the sound is traveling in the right way around your room. The only remaining thing to do then was to settle into these uber plush reclining chairs to actually see what this £30,000 investment results in.
By the way, this is only £30,000. I don't know what that translates to in US dollars, but this is just stage 1.
I had a string instrument so deep.
And that's partly because this was a 7.2.4 surround sound system. You actually see these numbers thrown around quite a lot in this world. So just so you know, the first number means how many main speakers you have. The second is the number of subwoofers you have, which handle your deep.
That's like the bass and stuff like that. Stuff that has those deeper, bassier, girthier notes. And then the 4 is the other, like,
bass notes. Most casual home cinemas will have 1, but these guys went for 2. And then the third number is the number of ceiling speakers, if any.
You'll have main speakers, right, that go around the room. So you ever been to a movie theater? You've probably seen some of the speakers on the top of the ceiling. Those are the additive speakers, right? Sometimes they'll have them on the bottom as well, depending on the cinema you go to or the movie theater you go to. But sometimes they'll have 4 subwoofers, sometimes they'll have 5, depending on, like I said, how expensive you're willing to go. But the higher the number, the more in-depth and immersion you're going to get because there's more speakers surrounding you, which is pretty insane, which yeah.
Just because those can add a whole extra dimension. So with that, I was so curious, what on earth could Tier 2 do? Well, this was a £60,000 room. And as well as the obvious projector and speaker quality upgrade, the other immediately obvious thing is you can't see any of the speakers. This room is showing how if you use the same acoustically transparent material as we previously had just for the screen for your walls too, you can actually create a completely next level bonkers sound setup in which you see no speakers. And that's so cool. But also, it's at this sort of what I would call very high price tier that you start to come into another conundrum.
So most home cinemas will need some sort of power amplifier as the brains to process all the audio and video signals, to give you the ports to connect up to audio speakers, and to provide the power needed to drive them. But when you get to the high end, you start to realize that you're going to get better performance if you split this functionality into multiple boxes. So having a completely separate box dedicated just to processing and upgrading your audio signals, and then another just for upgrading your video signals. And that's what they've introduced with this setup.
So we tested it.
That is already insane. You can even hear it.
Please respond.
Feel it in my bones.
It's actually quite hard to describe to you how ridiculously impressive this second setup
If
was.
you've ever gone to like an IMAX or something like 3D, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's very, very like if you ever gone to like a kind of like a rock concert, kind of, and you've been in the front seat. I've never been to one, but I kind of trying to relate to that. But yeah,
Like my legs were actually shaking when the bass notes hit.
So, Tier 3.
oh man, this is gonna be even more immersive, I bet.
Now, as you can probably tell, I was trying to keep my cool because, you never want to get too excited around people trying to sell you stuff, but my God. I mean, this might just be the prettiest room I've ever seen, full stop. But then the guy introduced me to what this room is really about.
It's actually more to do with the Trinov. It's an in-house developed system to give you the ultimate bass experience in any room. What it gives you is the seat-to-seat consistency of bass.
I spent about 30 full minutes trying to get to the bottom of what this Trinov actually is. And long story short, this cinema system, which by the way is priced at £300,000, has
That doesn't surprise me.
4 powerful subwoofers at the front. Those subwoofers fire out a wave of bass anytime there's a low note in what you're watching or playing. And then the back of the cinema is lined with 4 more of the exact.
Because like if you have more, sorry to pause again, but if you guys have more subwoofers, right? So imagine you've got, the room, you get your room, and then you have one in the front, but you have, you want the best experience, you could have front, sides, back, and it's just all vibrating around the room. And so it's just crazy. I haven't been to one of those in a long time, but I remember what it's like.
Same
It's always more crazy than you remember.
subwoofers. And this is where it gets interesting because these are called the absorbing array, which basically sends out the same signal that the front is sending out, but just inverted in order to cancel that sound out, and then slightly delayed by the amount of time that it takes the front sound to reach the back of the room. And so Trinov is basically the processor that allows super advanced stuff like that to be calculated. But why? Well, essentially to make
why
sure that
not?
bass doesn't reverberate. It booms, you feel it in your soul, and then it cuts to dead silence again to give you the maximum possible audio dynamic range. The ability for one moment to be explosive and the next to be a whisper.
So we had a listen to this absolutely bonkers Tier 3 setup, and
Yeah, I had never experienced anything like that before. The sound was just bonkers.
Like I
it
said,
felt like
you don't understand how good sound is until you upgrade to something. You will never understand how great sound is until if you're using TV speakers and that's all you can afford. That's amazing because I get it, stuff's expensive, but if you've ever gone to like a Best Buy or place with sound bars, like good sound bars and like subwoofers and things, you will never truly. Or like even in theater, like I was saying, if you've ever watched like a war movie or something with good bass, like Dune, the newer Dune movies. If you've ever watched those in theaters, Oh my goodness, the bass in those movies and the sound quality, geesh.
like a sphere around my head, and the music was
That's 3D experience. If you ever hear like in a theater, they always have 3D surround. It's called surround sound. It's 3D experience, so it seems like if there's like gunshots going off, right, and they transfer around your head, then you will feel that, you know.
swimming in my brain. But no, obviously we didn't just see that and then buy that. I mean, we've spent a lot of time in showrooms since then.
We've seen screens that can actually extend to match the aspect ratio of your movie or game. We've seen audio processing boxes taller than I am that actually have eyes for some reason.
And we've seen seating, my friends. Seating so comfortable that, oh my God, I swear at some points I was physically unable to pay any attention to what the sales guy was telling me. And so, this is what I'm thinking right now. We found a company called Meridian Audio who's going to do our speakers. Out of everything we tried, they were the pinnacle. We're going to end up going for, I can't quite believe I'm saying this, but 21 speakers and 12 subwoofers. And then to finish the whole thing off,
That doesn't surprise me. If you want ultimate surround sound and ultimate immersion, you're gonna go for the best, no matter what.
we managed to find not just an acoustically transparent screen, but also an acoustically transparent fabric that's going to cover every single wall, so you don't see a single speaker. And projector-wise, I initially came into this thinking I was going to get a Sony or a JVC, you know, the
Those are good
consumer-facing
companies.
brands. But through our travels to these various showrooms, we found this company called Barco, and they usually deal directly with businesses, so I'd never heard of them. But the brightness of those projectors versus the JVCs,
That's where movie theaters
actually a
have their
big
speakers
difference.
at,
Maybe
but-
because they're designed for bigger commercial cinemas.
saying,
And the
movie
seating,
theaters.
we decided it has to be the masterminds that made this thing right here. And turns out that is a company called Movia, who seem to have a whole load of different base designs and materials, but then they're also completely modular. So you can actually configure the exact arrangement of those designs.
Wow.
This guy's gonna call in about a minute. The price really adds up when you start adding arrays of speakers.
Hi Aaron, how are you doing?
So we've had a look through the quote. We're happy to go ahead with it.
That's brilliant, that's great news. Even small private
Brilliant.
cinemas that are run by film clubs and stuff like that, very few of them get to this sort of level. It's going to be probably one of the very best private cinemas in this country.
All right.
We're going to be playing Smash on it.
We're going to be plugging a Nintendo Switch into it, yeah.
You can play whatever you want into it. To
Now,
be
I thought
honest.
from the point of placing that order, this would be a 1-month job. Yet again, foolish ambition. It actually took 4
Let me know what your guys' interest are. I like seeing the behind the scenes of like building homes and tearing things down like this. I did a little demolition back when I was a little younger. I'm still young, but you know what I'm talking about. And I just like seeing the behind the scenes of all this stuff, you know. That's kind of how my brain is, you know, what goes into making this kind of stuff. You know, you see the finished product, but what goes into making all this?
4 months, for a few reasons. We had to tear down every single existing panel on the walls. We had to fit 4 ceiling speakers, 12 subwoofers, and 17 wall speakers, which,
Wow.
to be honest, the only crazier thing than hearing that number is seeing it. Remember, every one of these speakers contains multiple speaker cones. Then we had to refit new panels on top in a very carefully controlled combination of super high quality noise isolation pads with the very best sound diffusion panels we could find, all painted black and then finished with our acoustically transparent black fabric going around the whole room. And then finally, because the team who was building it had to do a lot of testing, constantly tweaking the arrangement of things using this multi-array microphone to check the results at each stage until it was just perfect.
If you guys ever are looking for, I just want to let you guys know this, if you guys are ever looking for a monitor, a TV, you know, best TV, best monitor, you know, best soundbar, headphones, laptop, anything like that, head over to rtings. It's ratings without the A. I'll leave a link down in the description below, but check them out. They are amazing. Their in-depth testing quality is amazing. Don't skip it. Like I said, I'll leave a link down in the stuff below. And they go from budget to high end, you know, so you don't have to worry about, you know, you might have to do a little searching, but they won't always have the right thing that you're looking for, so you might have to go, you know, to a different website and then go back to them and put it in the search bar and stuff like that. But still, go check them out. They're amazing.
And that is now. Inside this room is one of the greatest cinema room and gaming rooms ever created. And I haven't even tested it yet. We're about to do it together on camera, and I am about to pee myself with excitement.
I would too.
Welcome.
Really? One Series X, bro?
So
Really?
I'm going to take you around the room
Just
like
one?
this, and it's just going to keep building. Starting with the console cabinet. Weirdly, this is one of my proudest achievements ever. We started out with a plain cutout in the wall.
That'd be mine,
and
too.
we quickly realized two issues. One, that all the consoles are different heights, so you had just a ton of wasted space. But the bigger issue was cables. We had like 30 different cables trailing all over the place. Because I am obsessive to an annoying level, I didn't just want the consoles to be powered on. I wanted to create a space where every single controller of every console is also always plugged in, always fully charged. And so, with a bunch of carefully placed plinths, false walls, and shelves, we have actually pulled that off. You basically can't see a cable. So, what hardware did we go for? Well, from left to right, you can see we've got 4 PlayStation 5 Slims. There's actually a very good reason for that, which I'm getting to. But what I want to show you
PlayStations, to be
now
fair,
is
so-
one of the key problems that we were trying
Never
to
had
avoid,
one.
which is what console does this controller connect to? Then I remembered that Sony themselves actually sell alternate colored plates, and then realized that they also sell controllers that matched to the color of those plates. So yeah, one thing led to another, and now we have 4 color-matched PS5s, which is just surreal. There's the PlayStation Portal here, which again, does actually charge here. It's like secretly connected magnetically to a very stealthy cable behind it. This is a console that's had a little bit of a character arc for me. When it first released, I thought, wow, that's a very overpriced, empty piece of hardware. But as soon as you have really good, stable internet, and also you have a specific use case for it in mind, it can be an absolute game changer, like it is in this set. This thing plays a pivotal role in what we're trying to do here. Then this is a one.
I don't like PlayStation very much. You know, I played the games. I never owned a console, but I didn't like the PlayStation very much. I own an Xbox, but I've owned Xboxes, but
1 terabyte Xbox Series
that's
X.
what's up.
This is basically just for Halo. I've been
Dang.
obsessed with Halo ever since I was like 10 years old. And since Halo already has 4-player split screen on one console, it'd be absolutely silly to get 4 Xboxes. Also, I absolutely love
Why
these
would it-
Razer chargers we've got for
Why
all
would
the
it be
Xbox
silly?
and PlayStation remotes. We went through a lot of different ones with RGB lighting, ones that tried to match the designs of the consoles. Nothing beats the look, the feel, and the quality of these. And then, of course, we have the Nintendo Switch corner. And as silly as it does feel to have this little tablet that's like a third of the power of a modern-day phone, Nintendo makes great games. And the fact that on just one of these things, you can have 8 people playing multiplayer games at 60 frames per second will forever be an embarrassment to everything on that side. You gotta love the optimization.
Not really.
And then in here,
I mean, the consoles aren't made for that. They're not made to game like that. That's why they made the Nintendo Switch. That's why that's why the Nintendo Switch was such a big hit when it came out, because there was nothing else that could do that. You know, there's no other gaming devices that could play up to 6 people on 60 frames a second at like 1080p. You know, there's nothing else that was like that. But when it comes down to it, they're all respective. They're all good in their respective areas, put it that way.
this has always been a dream of mine to do. So for a long time, we've used these knockoff Nintendo Switch Pro controllers. They're very customizable, they're fun to look at, but they're a little cheap and you can kind of tell. And somehow 3 of the 4 of those controllers I use have managed to develop some form of joystick drift. Not this time. I wanted to do everything in this house to the highest possible standard. We wanted to have the best controllers with also the best customization. So every single one of these Switch controllers is an official Nintendo Switch Pro controller, but custom painted by Colorware. And I cannot believe how good it's turned out. Oh yeah, and the final thing in this console cabinet seems really boring, but is actually so cool.
Let's
this
see.
is an HDMI matrix. So
It
this
switches
connects every
everything,
single output
yeah.
device, like a PlayStation, an Xbox,
You just plug it into there, press a button, and it turns on. You just press the thing, and it turns on, and it goes right to their TV.
and Nintendo Switch, with every single input device in this room. Because yes, there are multiple screens here. So every single device in this entire room is allocated one of these numbers, and then you just tap these buttons to decide which screen those devices can display their image on.
Yep.
Now, up here, we've got 2 side
AKA HDMI switcher. There are things that are smaller, but if you have a lot of connections like that, that works better. There are a lot of, you just look up HDMI switcher, you know, that's all it is. but obviously more advanced.
Cabinets. So these were not here when we first got the house. We got them made because there's a few extra things that we wanted to add to this room, starting with the tech shelf. Now, to most people, this is probably going to look like a dumpster fire, but I'm hoping, given that you're watching this video, you will see this for the art piece that it is. So these two are making sure that every device has the fastest internet and the fastest data transfer.
Which this dude has to have a crap ton of internet. Like, he's got to have very, 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 very fast internet. I'm not even kidding. He's got to have over 5 gigs or have something going. Like, that is insane. Like, look at how much Ethernet cords he's got plugged in, Ethernet ports he's got. Sheesh.
Like, everything where possible is wired, not wireless. Then you got a layer of plugs. And this isn't fun, but I think it's really important when you're building a room like this, where you might be powering something that's sitting on the other side of it, that you just label them so you know what's what. Now, underneath that is something called the Blue Sound node. And the only reason that we have that is just so that we can use our phones to play music through this ridiculous Meridian sound system, which on one hand, yes, seems like a really strange thing to have to do in 2024 and the era of Sonos speakers which have that capability built inside of them already. But basically, you'll find when you get to really high-end sound systems, everything is separate, partly because they work in slightly old-fashioned ways, but mostly because splitting up the functionality.
If you want the best immersive sound, you have to have everything wireless, because if you have one cord that goes to everything, it's not going to work as great. You want especially high-end sound systems. Like, you know, you don't go to your nearest tech shop, right? And or wherever you get your tech from, and you see that they all have different cords, because having one cord that splits off splits that connection, splits that immersive sound. You know, it works with, you know, low certain things, but high-end things, you don't want that. You want a cord going to one device each, so it gets its, you know, powerful sound, gets its draw.
Functionality of each device allows you to get devices that do each function at their absolute maximum, so there's no bottlenecks. And then below that, we've got the Lumagen. And
just like if you have low connection, like you don't have a lot of data speed, right? And you have 4 devices that are wired, you're definitely going to be slowing down, because wired connections take the most pull.
The reason we have this box in very simple terms is it makes things look better. We've got so many different devices in this room, all connected to the same displays. You know, Nintendo Switch, Xbox, PlayStation. There's an Apple TV box behind here as well. The Lumagen takes in all of these inputs and just makes sure that when they come out of it, they are corrected in every way possible. And then we've got this absolute unit of a box, the Trinnov Audio. Like you've seen, this thing's like a supercomputer designed with the sole purpose of audio processing. And there is something really cool that we've managed to pull off in this room thanks to the power of this box. But we're getting there. And then this is a freezer. It freezes things.
Wow.
Anyway,
very advanced.
I am so happy with how this thing came together. So this is a PC. It's designed by PC Specialist, specifically for virtual reality. They have this very fun and very dangerous configurator when you're picking what you want. But eventually, we decided on this absolutely bonkers specification. So RTX 4090 graphics card, 24-core Intel Core i9 up to 6 gigahertz, 8 terabytes of M2 solid-state storage, 64 gigabytes of RAM, and the entire thing is also water-cooled just to keep it as quiet as possible. And when the thing arrived, that was all the stuff we expected. What we didn't expect is just how handsome the thing is. We originally allocated the top half of that shelving cabinet just to store the thing. We took it out of the box, saw how the black perfectly matched the background, the wood paneling here perfectly matched the sofas. So we just decided it has to be here. This just makes sense. This is actually the first time I get to try it. Headset, controllers. Oh, by the way, this is actually a really cool time to show you the Control 4 Halo Touch. So, technically, all of these are remotes for something in this cinema room. This is the only one we actually need. Every single one of these normal remotes is designed to have one purpose, whereas this remote is connecting to the hardware in the house on a deeper layer. And so I can do basically anything on this. Like, for example, if I click lighting here, and then I go into scenes, we have 5 different lighting modes, each creating a different mood in this room. But the reason I'm showing you this now is if I click this watch button here, this is every single input device in this entire cinema room. Cool. All the PlayStation 5s, the Xbox Series X, Nintendo Switch, and the VR PC. So all I have to do is to tap on that PC button, and the PC goes through the HDMI matrix and starts displaying on this main screen.
That's
this
cool.
is absolutely insane. So I'm streaming right now from the PC, which means you're able to play VR games at a level of graphical fidelity you would not be able to with the headset alone. Oh, and there's like no latency at all. And then for the headset, it might seem like a little bit of a strange decision why we went for the Meta Quest 3. Because, you know, I was saying we wanted the best of the best for everything in this cinema room. And you can get a lot more fancy and a lot more expensive VR headsets than this. There is a whole world of ultra specialized, extremely cutting edge headsets. But this is the one that I keep coming back to. Because if all you want to do is game, then they are all worse than the actually quite simple Meta Quest 3. Mostly because of how much more reliable the software is on this thing. I've only got the sofas, and the reason that I fell in love with this is, as far as the comfort's concerned, you cannot tell this is not a normal sofa, but it's actually kind of high tech. So I mentioned before that one of the main perks of this is that it's modular, meaning that each one of these segments is its own piece that you can kind of chop and change to put together like pieces of Lego, which means we've managed to get a sofa that perfectly fits the space we wanted, leaving just enough gap on either side. It means we've been able to specifically select the feature set that we want in the armrest. So I just think this is so cool. If you pull this back, you've got a drinks holder with an RGB configurable light on the inside and a Qi charger for your phone. People are always asking for chargers when they come to your house, so it's tough to describe how much joy it brings me that now I can just say to them, stick your phone in the armrest. But this is the cherry on top. It also means that every single one of these seats has its own 3-part movable skeleton underneath. So you reach your hand into this crevice, you can adjust the footrest, you can adjust the headrest, and you can also, with a different button, adjust the depth of the thing. And it comes out so far, it is almost bed-like, which is just insane considering how compact it is. I'm not exaggerating when I say this thing is hideously expensive for seating, but at the same time, it is the best movie sofa I've ever experienced. We did end up going for the barcode projector, which has a 5K resolution, and you can kind of tell that it's commercial grade by the fact that it has an actual display on the side so that someone in a viewing area can actually see a preview of what's being projected out the front. Now this is Cabinet the Second. This is a simple one, but it's no less fun. Basically all of our favorite snacks. And we thought that this area here would actually be really nice to pour yourself a drink in. But since we don't actually have any bottles yet,
refreshing station
filled with Pringles. And then this is a
fridge.
Oh, not so mini fridge. And the thing that I think is particularly cool here is, how it's integrated. It's quite easy for a white fridge and some cheap snacks to stand out like a sore thumb in a room like this. But the way we've done the paneling and used the same acoustic fabric that we have across the entire cinema room on this cabinetry as well makes it feel like a part of it. Beanbags. So these are from, a company called Vetsac. And they're about twice as big as I was expecting them to be. The box came into the house and I was thinking, oh, that seems a little small, but cute. Then I opened it and the thing friggin' exploded in front of me. You then have to leave them out for 48 hours to fluff. And here we are. I knew we wanted beanbags in this house ever since we did a team retreat in an Airbnb 2 years ago. And that place had swapped out every single sofa with a beanbag. And it changed the entire vibe. It created such a feeling of
beanbags
calm,
can do that. They're
which I
pretty
loved.
cool.
So, the reason why we've got 4 PS5s here, the reason why we've got an HDMI matrix, half the reason why this room exists is because of this button right here, Co-op Gaming. And while this happens, I want to explain to you why I've chosen to use Surfshark VPN for our cinema room PC. So, you probably know how most VPNs work. Oh my God, it's actually working. They take your traffic, they route it through one of their servers so that all the website on the other end can see is the details of that server. And that's already pretty cool, but Surfshark uses Nexus technology, meaning that every one of their servers is connected and that Surfshark can bounce you between all of them on the fly without dropping your connection. And that's pretty next level because it means you're even more difficult to track because you can have a new IP address every single time you click a new link. And instead of your data being masked through one server, your data can be masked through an entire network of servers. And you'll get even better speeds because as soon as a faster server opens up, you can be routed through that instead automatically. And if you go to surfshark.com/boss, you can now get it at the all-time lowest price ever, $1.99 a month for an unlimited number of users with 4 extra months for free.
Those have to be QD OLEDs.
Oh my God.
Those have to be QD OLEDs, right?
I can't actually believe
that's PlayStation.
And they're all on automatically. Just give me a second to take this in. So this is two LG G4 OLED TVs. These things are 55-inch, 4K resolution. The picture quality is amazing.
Yep.
And each one is
Why wouldn't it
mounted
be?
to by far the most bonkers mechanism I've ever seen in my life. So
Bonkers.
this is from a
Funny
company
word.
called Future Automation. It can project the TV down a whole meter. It can swivel in 360
me
degrees, and it communicates with
put
Control
the-
4, which means
put
that
that
from this remote, I can set the
variation
precise
down the,
centimeter
like,
and angle
description,
that this
so I
TV is
know what that
positioned at.
is.
Also,
Meters
each
to-
mechanism weighs over 200 kilograms. So getting those into the
Jeez.
ceiling was actually the single hardest part of this entire project.
I bet.
This is it. This is it. Oh my God. This is a dream I probably had for the last 5 to 10 years. And today, it has finally come true. I can hear bullets all around me. I can see what you guys are up to in my peripheral vision. Every gunshot has so much weight to it. It's insane.
If you ever want to feel the most immersion, this is what I'm talking about. You can hear it kind of, but you will never, ever, ever experience that until you get it. And it, like I said, I've been to a couple places that are like that, and it is beautiful. It is so, you never want to leave because of how good it sounds. Like, you never want to leave because of how immersive it feels.
Done nothing for our performance. The skill level is incredibly low on this battlefield.
And you can hear it behind you.
Yeah, you can hear everything. Like, you actually instantly know where the enemies are. Oh, yeah, and you want to know the most bonkers part of this whole thing? Because of that Trinov supercomputer sitting in the cabinet, the sound from each person's game can be directed towards the seat that they'll be sitting in. So everyone hears a slightly different mix of audio tailored to what they're noticing on their screen, while still getting
That's
the
crazy.
background from what's happening on everyone else's.
That's
And this
crazy.
is also where the PS Portal comes in. It connects to the white PS5 for player 4. So even though there's 3 main
PS6.
screens, we can still do 4 friends, online co-op gaming in the same game at the same time. Just nuts. And this is the piece de resistance. So let's say that after gaming, I want to watch something. Okay, so you pull up Apple TV, play trailer, and then there is a mode baked into here because yes, we did go for a motorized screen. Hit movie.
Wow.
Ridiculous.
That's
Absolutely
crazy.
ridiculous. It happens so smoothly, I can't believe it.
Is that supposed to be scary? The R rating isn't new for me, Fredo, but it is for Disney.
But it is for
Oh
Disney.
my God. You know, the thing that's
If
hardest...
you guys never watched, I mean, if you're allowed to, don't do it behind your parents' back or whoever. But if you're allowed to watch Deadpool Wolverine, if you've never seen it, it is so funny. But it is rated R for a reason.
to communicate through video is how the sound envelops you in the content. You just feel like all these walls, they're actually speakers behind them. You're being blasted from every single angle and it just
He
pulls
said
you
blasted.
in. It's the best sound I've ever heard in any cinema ever. Next episode is the living room, which we have equally spicy plans for.
If you guys like that video, drop a subscribe, like, comment, see what you guys want to see next, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.